Have you ever felt that Christmas arrives and leaves without really touching your heart? That something essential is missing, even when surrounded by lights, gifts, and celebration? What if I told you that Saint Teresa of Jesus, one of the greatest spiritual teachers in Catholic history, discovered a secret about Christmas that most people never learn? She taught that on this holy day, heaven bends toward us with singular tenderness, not because God changes, but because our hearts can change. And if you align your soul with how God acts on this sacred night, you open yourself to a protection so deep that no earthly force can shake it. Are you ready to discover the 3 simple yet profound things you must do on Christmas Day to attract divine protection into your life? Before we dive into these 3 powerful practices, you need to understand what divine protection truly means according to Saint Teresa. It is not the absence of problems. It is not immunity to suffering. It is not a magical shield that prevents all difficulties from touching your life. Divine protection, as Saint Teresa taught in her masterwork, The Interior Castle, is something far more profound and lasting. It means living in God's will, remaining in a state of grace, keeping your heart recollected, and walking with interior vigilance. The protected soul is not the one that never suffers, but the one that does not lose itself in suffering. Christmas reveals this paradox beautifully. God makes himself fragile to protect us from within, not from without. He comes as a helpless infant wrapped in cloth, lying in a manger, vulnerable to the cold and darkness. Yet in that very vulnerability, the greatest power in the universe is made manifest. Saint Teresa understood something that escapes most people. She knew that God does not enter by violence. He is not a conqueror breaking down doors. He is born where he is welcomed. The child of Bethlehem did not come surrounded by armies, but enveloped in silence, poverty, and love. And it is precisely there, in that humble, quiet space, that divine protection manifests with the most force. Many celebrate Christmas externally, she warned, with all the decorations and festivities. But they lose the interior grace. They throw parties, exchange gifts, gather with family, yet their souls remain closed to the very one whose birth they claim to celebrate. Divine protection is not attracted by magical gestures or superstitious rituals. It comes through concrete spiritual attitudes that align your soul with the way God acts. And on Christmas Day, when heaven leans closer than ever, 3 simple practices can open your heart to receive God's loving guard over your life. Think about your own experience for a moment. How many Christmases have you lived? How many times have you celebrated this day? And now, honestly, how many of those celebrations truly transformed something deep within you? How many times did Christmas pass like just another holiday, leaving you perhaps a bit tired, perhaps a bit disappointed, but not really different? Saint Teresa would say to you with great tenderness that this is not what Christmas was meant to be. This sacred night is a spiritual door, a threshold between heaven and earth that opens wider than any other moment in the year. But most people stand outside that door because they do not know how to enter. They are distracted by noise, by excess, by the very things that should be pointing them toward God, but instead become obstacles. The irony is tragic. People miss the grace of Christmas by celebrating it in all the wrong ways. But you do not have to be one of them. Not this year. Not if you learn what Saint Teresa discovered and lived. The first thing you must do on Christmas Day is to create silence, both interior and exterior, to welcome the child Jesus into your heart. This might sound simple, even too simple, but Saint Teresa was adamant about this truth. She said with absolute firmness that God speaks little when the soul makes much noise. On Christmas Day, when the world around you erupts in celebration, when family gatherings grow loud, when music plays and people talk and everything seems designed to fill every moment with sound, you must carve out space for silence. Not hours of silence, not even a long retreat, but conscious, deliberate moments where you close the doors to distraction and open the door to God. Silence, Saint Teresa taught, is not the absence of people. It is the presence of God made conscious. It means avoiding the excess of interior noise, those racing thoughts, those anxieties and plans and worries that constantly chatter in your mind. It means recollecting your heart for a few precious minutes. It means making a moment of simple prayer. It means thanking God in silence for the birth of Christ. You might ask, how can I find silence on Christmas Day when everything around me is so busy? How can I recollect my heart when my family is visiting, when there are meals to prepare, when there are expectations to meet? Saint Teresa would answer you gently, but firmly. She would say that silence is not a luxury for those who have empty schedules. Silence is a decision. It is an act of the will. It is choosing, even if just for 5 minutes, to step away from the noise and stand before God. You can do this early in the morning before anyone wakes. You can do this in a quiet corner while others are occupied. You can do this in your heart, even in the middle of activity, by turning your interior gaze toward the manger and saying quietly within yourself, Jesus, I welcome you. The child. Jesus is born where there is space, and silence creates that space. When you guard your heart in silence, God guards you. Divine protection begins in the interior, and silence is its first sign. But there is something more that happens when you practice silence on Christmas Day. Saint Teresa teaches that silence closes the doors to the enemy of your soul. The devil, she observed, feeds on distraction and agitation. He thrives in chaos and noise, because in those conditions, your spiritual vigilance weakens. You become vulnerable to temptations you would normally resist. You become irritable, anxious, disconnected from grace. But when you deliberately choose silence, even briefly, you erect an invisible wall around your heart. You order your affections. You calm your passions. You strengthen your vigilance. You allow grace to act. This is what Saint Teresa called recollection, and she stated clearly that a recollected soul is difficult to deceive spiritually. The demons hate silence because in silence, you can hear God's voice. In silence, you can recognize their lies. In silence, you become strong in a way that worldly noise can never make you. So on Christmas Day, do not be afraid of a few moments of quiet. Do not fill every second with activity and entertainment. Give God the gift of your silent attention. Welcome him as Mary and Joseph did, with humble watchfulness in the stillness of the night. Picture yourself standing before a nativity scene on Christmas morning. The figures are arranged carefully. Mary, Joseph, the shepherds, the animals, and at the center, the tiny infant Jesus, lying in the manger. Everything about this scene speaks of humility. The King of the universe is born in a stable meant for animals. The Savior of the world lies on straw, with no pillow but rough wood. The Lord of heaven has no palace, no army, no earthly glory. He comes in absolute poverty and vulnerability. And Saint Teresa, looking at this scene throughout her life, understood something profound. She realized that humility is the very atmosphere in which God chooses to dwell. Humility attracts God's gaze. Humility invites his protection. Humility is truth, she would say repeatedly. And on Christmas Day, the second essential thing you must do is offer the child Jesus a concrete act of humility. Not just a feeling. Not just a vague intention to be more humble, but a real, tangible gesture that cost you something. What does this look like practically? Saint Teresa gives us clear examples. It means asking forgiveness from someone you have hurt. It means recognizing a mistake you have been avoiding. It means renouncing a vanity that you cling to. It means accepting a limitation without complaining. It means confessing your sins if possible. It means humbling yourself in some specific way that your pride resists. You know what this is for you. Right now, as you hear these words, something in your heart already knows what act of humility you need to make on Christmas Day. There is someone you need to apologize to. There is something you need to admit. There is some way you need to lower yourself, to stop pretending, to stop defending yourself, to stop holding yourself above others. The child is born in a manger because humility is the safe place of God. Where there is humility, there is protection, because pride is the main spiritual breach through which evil enters. Saint Teresa discovered through years of spiritual struggle that the devil cannot stand humility. He flees from it. Why? Because humility imitates Christ. The Son of God emptied himself, taking the form of a servant, being born in human likeness. He humbled himself, becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. And when you choose humility, you align yourself with Christ's very nature. You become like him, and the enemy has no power over that likeness. A humble heart does not defend itself with pride. It trusts. It does not grasp at control. It surrenders. And in that surrender, something miraculous happens. God's strength becomes your strength. God's wisdom becomes your wisdom. God's protection becomes your shield. On Christmas Day, a single act of humility done for love can strengthen your soul in ways you cannot imagine. It drives away temptations. It restores peace. It attracts the divine guard over your life. Divine protection does not come from controlling everything. It comes from entrusting everything to God. But perhaps you are afraid of humility. Perhaps something in you resists this idea because humility feels like weakness in a world that celebrates strength. You have been taught to assert yourself, to stand up for yourself, to never let anyone see you vulnerable. And now here is Saint Teresa telling you to humble yourself, to make yourself small, to admit your faults, to ask for forgiveness. Does this not contradict everything the world teaches? Yes. Exactly. That is precisely the point. The world's wisdom leads to pride, and pride leads to spiritual death. Christ's wisdom leads to humility, and humility leads to life. On Christmas Day, when God himself chose humility as the door through which he would enter the world, you are invited to walk through that same door. The protection you seek will not come by building higher walls around your ego. It will come by tearing those walls down and allowing God to rebuild you from the inside out. This is the scandal of the gospel. This is the paradox of Christmas. The King is born in a stable, and you are called to be born anew in the poverty of spirit that welcomes him. The third and final thing you must do on Christmas Day is to consciously consecrate your home and your family to the child Jesus. Saint Teresa had a profound communal sense. She understood that authentic prayer never remains private. It overflows. It affects others. It transforms environments. She taught that when one soul truly encounters God, that grace radiates outward, touching everyone around. Your relationship with God is personal, yes, but never only private. It has social dimensions. It has family dimensions. It has communal implications. And on Christmas Day, when the child is born into a family, into a specific home in Bethlehem, you are called to invite him into your specific home, with your specific family, in your specific circumstances. This is not a magical ritual. It is an act of faith that disposes your home to receive grace. How do you consecrate your home and family to Jesus on Christmas Day? Saint Teresa would encourage you to do this with simplicity and sincerity. You can stand before your nativity scene, whether you are alone or with your entire family gathered. You can speak simple words from your heart. Something like this: Child Jesus, this home is yours. Protect us, guide us, and remain with us. Or if you are more comfortable with a traditional prayer, you can use one from the Church's treasury. The specific words matter less than the intention behind them. What matters is that you are deliberately offering your domestic space to God. You are acknowledging that He is Lord, not just of the church building, not just of your private prayer closet, but of your living room, your kitchen, your bedrooms. You are declaring that your family belongs to Him. When a home is offered to God in this way, it becomes territory of grace. The atmosphere changes. Not immediately in some dramatic way necessarily, but really, spiritually, over time. The Catholic Church teaches that blessings and consecrations are not magic. They do not manipulate God or force His hand. But they are powerful acts of faith that dispose the soul, and by extension the environment, to receive grace. Saint Teresa affirmed repeatedly that God respects the places where He is recognized as Lord. When you consecrate your home on Christmas Day, several things happen spiritually. First, it reinforces family unity by establishing God as the center. Second, it invites the protection of the angels who serve God's will. Third, it establishes a spiritual climate of peace that makes your home more resistant to evil influences. Fourth, it closes your house, as much as is possible, to the influence of the evil one. This is not superstition. This is the faith of the Church, confirmed by centuries of saints and mystics who knew that spiritual realities are just as real as physical ones. Your home is not just bricks and wood. It is a spiritual space, and who you invite into that space matters eternally. Think about what happens in your home right now. What is the spiritual atmosphere? Is Christ welcomed there? Or is He more like a guest who might visit occasionally, but is not really the owner? Saint Teresa would urge you to make your home a living nativity, not just on Christmas Day, though that is where you begin, but every day afterward. When you place Christ at the center of your domestic life, when you make Him the Lord of your relationships, your decisions, your conflicts, your celebrations, everything changes. The petty arguments that used to tear your family apart begin to lose their power. The resentments that used to poison the air begin to dissolve. The love that should characterize a Christian home begins to grow. But it all starts with a moment of consecration, a moment when you stand together or alone before the manger and say with your whole heart, "This family, this home, belongs to you, Jesus. We are yours. Protect us. Guide us. Remain with us always." Now you know the three things Saint Teresa teaches you to do on Christmas Day to attract divine protection. First, create silence, interior and exterior, to welcome the child Jesus into your heart. Second, offer Him a concrete act of humility that costs you something real. Third, consecrate your home and your family to Him with deliberate, conscious faith. These three practices are simple. They do not require money. They do not require special education. They do not require you to be a theologian or a mystic. They only require you to open your heart, to set aside a few moments, and to align your soul with the way God acts in the world. But though they are simple, they are also profound. They reach into the depths of your being and make space for grace to transform you from within. And that transformation brings with it the protection you seek, the peace you long for, the presence you need. But perhaps you are wondering, will these practices really make a difference? Will they really attract divine protection? Or are they just pious ideas that sound nice but do not actually change anything in the real world where you face real struggles? Saint Teresa would answer you with the authority of someone who lived what she taught. She would say that these are not theories. They are not abstractions. They are tested truths, proven in the lives of countless saints and ordinary believers, who discovered that when you align yourself with God's ways, His power flows into your life. Divine protection is not a feeling you chase. It is a reality you live in when you surrender to God's will. And these three practices, done with sincerity on Christmas Day, are ways of surrendering. They are ways of saying yes to God, yes to His presence, yes to His ways, even when those ways contradict what the world tells you. Imagine for a moment that this Christmas could be different. Not different because external circumstances magically improve, but different because you are different. Different because you have chosen to welcome Christ in the way He asks to be welcomed, in silence, in humility, and in conscious consecration. Imagine waking up on Christmas morning and instead of rushing into the noise and activity, you take 10 minutes of silence before the nativity scene in your home. You breathe slowly. You recollect your heart. You say quietly, "Jesus, I welcome you today. "Come and be born in my heart." Then, sometime during the day, you make that one act of humility you know you need to make. You ask for forgiveness. You admit your fault. You let go of your pride. And in that moment, though it might feel like weakness, you experience a strange strength rising in you, the strength that comes from grace. Then, with your family or alone, you stand before the manger and consecrate everything to Christ. Your home, your loved ones, your plans, your fears, everything. This is not a fantasy. This is not wishful thinking. This is what Christmas is meant to be. A lived encounter with the God who loves you so much that he became small, vulnerable, and poor to reach you. Saint Teresa lived this way. She transformed her life and the lives of countless others by understanding that God's protection comes through alignment with his ways, not through our own efforts to secure ourselves. She discovered that the soul that lives in silence, practices humility, and surrenders everything to God becomes unshakable. Not because problems disappear, but because God himself dwells within, guiding, strengthening, protecting from the inside out. This Christmas, you have the opportunity to experience that same reality. The door is open. The invitation is extended. The child is waiting in the manger of your heart. All he asks is that you make space for him, humble yourself before him, and give your whole life to him. As we conclude, let me ask you one final question. What if everything you have been seeking, all the peace, all the security, all the protection, all the meaning, is found in one place? What if that place is not out there somewhere, but right here, in your own heart, waiting to be discovered? Saint Teresa called the soul an interior castle, a magnificent dwelling place where God longs to live in intimate union with you. But most people never enter beyond the outer courtyards of that castle. They remain in the noise and distraction of the surface life, never venturing into the deeper rooms where God waits. Christmas is your invitation to go deeper. It is your chance to walk past the superficial celebrations and enter into the mystery. And the three practices we have explored are the keys that unlock those doors. Silence opens the first door by quieting the noise that keeps you from hearing God's voice. Humility opens the second door by removing the pride that keeps you from receiving God's grace. Consecration opens the third door by surrendering the control that keeps you from trusting God's will. On Christmas Day, the heavens bend low. The distance between heaven and earth becomes thin. Grace flows more abundantly because the source of all grace has entered the world in person. This is the day when God's love is made visible in the most concrete way possible. A baby wrapped in cloth, lying in a manger. Everything about that scene speaks of accessibility. God is not far away on this day. He is not hidden behind clouds or locked in heaven. He is here, vulnerable, reachable, waiting for you to approach. And when you approach him in the way Saint Teresa teaches, when you come with silence, humility, and consecration, you open yourself to receive the full measure of his protective love. Not a protection that makes you immune to suffering, but a protection that keeps your soul safe in the midst of suffering. Not a guard that prevents all trials, but a presence that walks with you through every trial. Not a magic shield, but a divine companionship that nothing can break. Who among us does not need divine protection? Who can say they are strong enough, wise enough, good enough to walk through life without God's guard over their soul? The world is full of dangers, not just physical dangers, but spiritual ones. Temptations that would lead you away from truth. Lies that would deceive you. Despair that would crush you. Fear that would paralyze you. And against all these threats, your own strength is not enough. Your own wisdom is not enough. Your own goodness is not enough. You need God. You need his protection, his guidance, his presence. And on Christmas Day, he offers it to you in the most tender way possible. He offers it as a gift wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger, asking only that you welcome him. Do not miss this opportunity. Do not let this Christmas pass like all the others, celebrated on the surface, but not lived in the depths. Make the 3 choices. Practice silence. Embrace humility. Consecrate your home. And watch what God does in your life. Those who live Christmas in this way do not merely celebrate a past birth. They allow Christ to be born today, bringing light, peace, and true protection. They discover what Saint Teresa discovered, that God's ways, though they seem weak to the world, are stronger than anything the world can offer. They learn that the stable is stronger than the palace, that poverty of spirit is richer than worldly wealth, that the cry of an infant contains more power than the roar of armies. This is the mystery of Christmas, the scandal of the incarnation, the paradox that saves. And you are invited to enter that mystery not as a spectator, but as a participant. Not as someone who merely observes from a distance, but as someone who opens their heart and says, "Yes, come and be born in me. Come and transform me. Come and protect me. Come and make your home in my heart, today and always."